Hi. This is Susan Schackman and Jan Shwarts interviewing Idella Partegas, our aunt. Today is September the 6th, 2023. And Idella, whoops, this thing just came out. It's not doing.
Oh dear.
There. Okay. Tell us a little bit about where you were born.
I was born in Dallas, Texas, at St. Paul Hospital, November, checking my date.
Yeah.
When I was born.
Yeah, the day you were born.
November the 1933.
Okay. And your parents?
Were Joe and Fanny Coleman.
And did they live in Dallas at that time, or did they live somewhere else?
They lived in Dallas, and yeah, I was born in, they lived here, no, they lived in Ferris. But when I was 6 months old, they moved to Dallas. And I don't know where they lived when they first moved here. I don't think it was on Forest, but later on, they had a 4 apartment, and we lived there.
And what was that address?
2814 Forest Avenue, and it was a 4-plex, and I don't know too much about my father because he died when I was 4 years old, but I had 3 sisters, and they were Zelda Schackman, Sylvia Skolnick, and Eula Fisher. And we had just a wonderful bringing up, I tell you. And I was with my mother since I was 4 years old. And my sisters took very good care of me. And
Okay. Where'd you go to school?
I went to John Henry Brown for elementary school. And then I went to Forest Avenue High School, which was a wonderful experience. There were so many wonderful people there.
Okay. And when did you meet your husband?
I met my husband at the Jewish Community Center on Pocahontas. And I have to tell you, he asked somebody else out before him, and I was standing in back of her. And she had a date already, and he says, "Well, Idella, do you want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, might as well." And that was it, and 9 months later we were married.
And what was his name, and what was he doing at that time?
His name was Bernard Partegas, but went by the name of Bob. And he came from the Bronx in New York. He was a soldier. Well, he was in the Air Force. He was stationed at Carswell. And all the boys used to come over to Dallas on the weekend, and we had dances for them and everything. And he was one of them, but he got out of the service and he worked as a photographer. He would do home portrait. And
Where did you live then?
I was living on Beechwood Lane, 4177 Beechwood Lane.
Y'all didn't live in...
After I graduated high school in 51, and I got married in 54, and had my first little girl in 57, and that was Marla.
Yeah, tell me, so how many children do you
I
have?
have 2 girls. I have Marla and I have Linda.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so proud of both of my girls. They both graduated from the University of Texas. And Marla was a teacher, and Linda was a social worker. And I have 4 grandchildren, 2 boys and 2 girls. And now I'm the proud great-grandmother of 2 little boys.
And where did they live?
Linda lives in Austin with her 2 sons, and
What about her
They're
husband?
they're her grandkids now. And Marla lives in Houston, and she has 2 daughters. And and it's kind of hard.
That's okay.
But,
They live in one lives in Houston and one lives in
One
Dallas.
lives in Austin, one lives in Houston.
Okay.
Marla was a teacher and Linda was a social worker.
And what did your husband do for a living? But after the photography.
After photography, he was a salesman on the road, and I traveled with him quite a bit. I would take the girls with me, and my mother would come quite a bit with us. She was like a lifesaver to us. She was my babysitter, but we took her on trips with us and everything. And I don't know what I would do without her, but she died in 1982, and it was a big loss for us. But she was just a wonderful person. And she did treat me unbelievable. They said I was a small little girl.
And you said you traveled a lot. Where all did you go? And did you go only for business or did you go for pleasure?
We went both. We went up to the World's Fair, and we went, in all our other trips, we traveled in the, all over. We went to a lot of the national parks, and me and my husband, we did quite a few trips overseas, and my husband loved the Orient, and he was quite thrilled with so we were over in Japan and China. We climbed the Great Wall, and it was just a wonderful. We were married over 70 years almost, and it was just wonderful.
And when did he pass away?
He passed away in April, about 4 years ago, I think. Is it 3 or 4 years?
I don't remember the
About
date.
4.
And
Okay.
and my daddy was in. What I know of my daddy, he lived in Ferris, Texas, with the 3 girls, and he had a little grocery store and a food place, as far as I know, and he was very, very good at what he did. And before he died, he opened up a trucking company, Coleman Brothers Trucking, and he just got the license to travel interstate, and it was just going off, and then he had I think a heart attack. Nobody ever talked too much when I was little, at 4 years old, so I don't know that much, but anyway, he owned the little, we owned the fourplex, so we lived there until I graduated high school.
Do you happen to remember who all lived in the other apartments?
Oh God, the Wachowskis lived there, and the Granicks lived there, and Alice Kowski and them lived up there. And at one time the Raskins used to live there. There was quite a few different people living there. And it was a wonderful growing up. We played, and we had such a wonderful thing. We had my friend Marilyn Greenberg and my cousin Idella Worth, and we were called the Three Musketeers because we were never by ourselves, and living in South Dallas was wonderful. And living on Forest Avenue, I had the streetcar. We'd get on there, we'd go to Fair Parks. It had a swimming pool, we'd go swimming, the aquarium, And we would just have the bandstand there, go see the musicals. It was just a wonderful breaking up. And going downtown to the Palace Theater or the Majestic, that was a real treat.
How'd you get to all those places?
By streetcar. The streetcar ran down Forest Avenue.
Did you always belong to Sheriff Israel?
No, when I was a kid, we belonged to Goodsockham, and Bob and I got married at the Belrose Hotel with Rabbi Abramowitz, and he was just unbelievable. And from there we went and we belonged to Tifereth Israel. And then a bunch of us all got together when our kids were about ready to go to Sunday school. We all went over to Sheriff Israel. And Bob and I lived with my mother for 2 years. and she would always give us, she had a car, so we always had transportation. It always seemed like we left her with no gas in her car. But after that, we moved to Farmers Ranch, 13310 Glenside Drive, and lived there for about 14 years. And Bob was doing pretty good with selling clothes, so we moved Farmers Ranch to Dallas, and on Lace Haven Drive, check it out. 14937 Lace Haven Drive. And the girls went, it's funny, we lived in Farmers Branch, the girls went to Dallas school. And then when we moved to Dallas, the kids went to Richardson schools. I'd always thought that was funny. And we lived there for 50 years.
What did we do every year at your house?
That's right.
Huh?
What did we do? And tell us about Thanksgiving.
Oh, and then after, we always my mother went to different houses for all the holidays, but for Thanksgiving, we decided we wanted to have it. We started out with 27 people, and after all these years, it went up to about 50 or 60 people for Thanksgiving, which was the biggest thrill. And the kids, wherever they were, all came in from Washington, California, wherever they were living. They could not miss Aunt Idella and Uncle Bob's Thanksgiving. And it was just wonderful. But when I turned 75, I decided it was a little bit too much for me. So my niece Janice Statman took over. Her daughter Allison took over. And it's still going and wonderful. But Thanksgiving was just the whole family always came for Thanksgiving. We were always together. And now, hi, I'm
Tell us a little bit about your children's marriages.
Okay, I have my 2 daughters married 2 wonderful guys. Marla, the oldest, married to
Mitchell.
Squire. And the other one is married to Keith Zimmerman. And I tell you, I have 2 wonderful son-in-laws. They're just like kids to me. They take good care of me and everything. And Mitchell was in the grocery store line of business selling them. And Keith is in real estate. And I tell you, my girls couldn't have picked 2 more wonderful boys. And they gave me 4 grandchildren, and the 2 boys the Zimmermans had, and the Squires had 2 girls. and it was wonderful. And then going back to my earlier days, I used to travel with my sister. And when I was a little girl, Eula Fischel, and my mother would take me to her poker games. And then when Eula was through with her date, she would have to come and pick me up and take me home. And she was just a wonderful person to me. And she went to her, and she was very close friend of Evelyn Dritch. And they traveled. Whenever they traveled, Idella was with them. And we went all over, and I'll never forget. They took me to Galveston, and I was like 16 years old. And they took me to the gambling place there. And I was so excited. It was just fantastic. I mean, they took me different places that were unbelievable. Excuse me. And then when I got married, Bob and I would travel with them all over. In one trip, we took our kids to Spain. Eula took her kids, and Jan and her sister, Gail was not there, she was in college. But Jan and I took my two daughters, and Ellen took her daughter, and we went all over Spain and Morocco, and we had such a wonderful time. And we went all over to Europe with them. We went to China with them. We went to Russia with them. And it was just unbelievable what we did with them. They were our best friends, I tell you. And we just loved them. And my sister Eula was unreal to me. And, excuse me. And Bob and I traveled a lot on the road, and we used to take the kids in the cars and with the crib playpen and put it in the back seat and travel all over with them. And we went to, with Julian, then we went to a lot of horse racing places, Little Rock, and Pine Bluff, and around all those places. Oh, we used to have such a wonderful time. And
Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you wanted to tell us about?
How about any hobbies you?
hobbies, oh, I did needlepoint. I have two of them in my apartment with me now. And then when I couldn't needlepoint anymore, I went to crossword puzzles. And my husband had a hobby of stamp collecting. And he belonged to a lot of stamp clubs, especially he belonged to a Chinese one that we went with them. And we had some wonderful Chinese friends. They were very, very nice and, you know, always went to eat. And my husband loved Chinese food, so we went to the restaurant called Canton almost once a week. And I'll tell you, I had a wonderful life.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and we appreciate having this, and your children will love to listen to it.
Oh, I hope I
Thank
did
you.
okay. Did I do okay?